Mr. Jeremy referred to a press release, OTP tab 108, in which the police proclaimed that 32 people were killed in Bulacan big-time operations, and then went on to refer to this as one single operation in which 32 victims were killed by the police in Bulacan. But what Mr. Jeremy failed to tell you, Your Honours, is that one of the prosecution's own witnesses explained clearly that he investigated these deaths in an official capacity soon after the killings and found that 33 people were actually killed in different municipalities and provinces in central Luzon, but that their bodies were delivered to Bulacan. This was not, as Mr. Jeremy suggested, a single incident of mass murder, but rather an improper aggregate of a series of law enforcement operations over the course of 24 hours, executed in large geographical area, and for which we have no evidence in the case record. There's no evidence on the perpetrators, victims, motives, manner of attacks, methodology, in essence, nothing to link them to an alleged fantasy common plan. Everything is just stitched together enough to give it a veneer of organization. I now turn to incidents reflecting documented armed confrontations. And as mentioned when I first turned to this count, the documentary record, which has not been displaced by any evidence proffered by the prosecution, reflects attempted arrests, resistance, and responsive use of force. And you've just seen some of the documents up there on the screen. Let's turn briefly to Incident 17, for which the prosecution has relied on a witness who stated that the planting of evidence was an open secret in the locality and province more generally. However, another witness working in the same locality, P1208, states otherwise, that he was never involved in illegal operations resulting in deaths, was not aware of extrajudicial killings disguised as lawful operations, and confirms that there were no standing orders to kill. The operational objective, he explains, was arrest, lethal force only when the circumstances required it. And you can find this information in Defense tab 96. And we see this pattern again and again and again. In Incident 40, for example, P1131, who worked with the individual alleged to have shot the suspect, stated clearly that the killings occurred only in circumstances of lawful use of self-defense. That can be found at Defense tab 74, and you can see it on the screen as well. This type of testimonial evidence is also corroborated by documentary and forensic evidence. Incident 15, the prosecution again resorts to its usual pro forma narrative of staged killings or nanlabans. But what it has not done, of course, is prove this. Whereas I urge Your Honours to look at the screen, where you can see detailed documentary evidence about how this incident came about, and I summarize, a spontaneous exchange of fire after the suspect discharged a firearm, ballistics testing of the officer's weapon, affidavits by the police officers involved, and formal review and investigation of the officer who fired his weapon. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bore you with all the evidence we have on every single one of these incidents, but what I will tell you, Your Honours, is that we have this type of forensic evidence proving attempts, arrests, armed resistance, and responsive and sometimes disciplined use of force in no less than 13 incidents. I don't know where Mr. Butuyan got the idea from that there's no forensic evidence left in the case record. And may we remind you, Your Honours, until the prosecution proves otherwise, which it has not, these state documents remain prima facie, authentic, and reliable. For incidents substantiated by a single witness narrative, and unconfirmed by alleged co-participants, I refer Your Honours to no less than 9 incidents. One prosecution witness, P1160, is the sole testimonial evidence for at least 3 incidents, while another 6 incidents are premised entirely on the testimony of P3. Now, what's interesting about these incidents is that P3 alleged that he was only one of a group of 3 or 4 perpetrators, and these other perpetrators are actually also prosecution witnesses. Yet none of the other witnesses corroborated his version of events. Not one. A couple of incidents alleged by the prosecution appear on its own evidence to be unrelated to drug enforcement, and thus questionably part of the fantasy common plan or organizational policy. For this, I would refer you to incidents 31 and 41, which involved targeting of 2 individuals, again, because of non-drugs related conduct. I'm not sure whether I can mention the type of conduct without revealing the identity, so I shall refrain from doing so. The prosecution has not presented any evidence to substantiate any nexus to anti-drug operations in either of these incidents. And for this, I refer you to D36, tab 158, at page 4. On the perpetrator's own account, the trigger for the killing was a personal grievance relating to property damage. There are numerous incidents against unidentified or improperly identified victims. The victim in incident 45 is described as a minor, just as in incident 38, another incident on which Mr. Jeremy focused on Tuesday. And by the way, on the subject of the killing of children, of course it ticks the right boxes for the prosecution insofar as it pulls the heartstrings. But apart from Kian de los Santos, the prosecution has not, despite its emphasis on children, presented to this chamber during these proceedings any evidence that even one victim, apart from Kian, in its 49 incidents was a minor. No birth certificates, no corroborative evidence, nothing. While incidents presented as involving minors are indeed grave, Article 61 requires proof, not emotion. It is for the prosecution to prove that the children were involved in these incidents, and not for the defense, once again, to prove a negative. Now, this evidentiary deficit extends even further. The Bulacan Provincial Office provided a certificate indicating that it had no record corresponding to the names of the victims, whose names have been redacted on the slide, which we will show you. Okay, but we'll pass on. But the names have been redacted. And these are alleged police killings, yet no operational report. Indeed, no contemporaneous documentation whatsoever has been produced. So on what does the prosecution base its claim that these individuals were murdered by the police other than P3? The prosecution relies almost exclusively on the account of P3 echoed by P8. And this is rather ironic. Does the prosecutor claim that P3 is corroborated by P8 when the source of P8's information is in fact P3 himself? Bootstrapping logic, once again. The alleged direct perpetrator, P1201, stated during his interview that he had never participated in an operation involving a child. The other officer allegedly present during both incidents, P1131, was never questioned about these events by the prosecution. And that omission, we submit, is not neutral.
Ako po, Lord, nawala na naman ng signal. Ay, Kaufman, ano naman ginawa mo? Putragis. Naka po, maabsat, no? Yung next session is in ilang minutes ba? Based dito sa kan is 40 minutes. Mukhang magbe-break sila in 10 minutes. Tapos, babalik after 30 minutes. Pero syempre, sisingitan ko na to ng subtopic natin. Tapos, mag-end live tayo. I mean, magre-relive na naman tayo for the second time. Shoutout sa mga bagong pasok. Sa mga wag po kalimutan mag-like and subscribe. Absat, ha. Puro kasi kasanilingan talaga. Wala na talaga. Wala daw. Inosente daw si Digong, anak ng kamote. Not guilty daw. Tragis. Sinabi niya kanina. Diba? End time. Naku po, Diyos ko Lord, Rudy. Ako, Sir Tony, ha? Remy, shout out. Nenita, kaya Biyab, shout out. End time, Tony, Nestor. Sino ba? Sa mga nandyan na active po mula pa kanina, shout out. Siyempre kay Sir Leonardo. Si Katkat, parang di ko pa nakikita si Katkat, no? Nakakapaw. Na itong si Kaufman, bulag at bingi. Di niya kaya niya nakikita, napapanood ang mga na-ipresenta ng evidence ng mga
These incidents, therefore, cannot simultaneously be characterized as manifestations of a centrally designed OTBT-based common plan, because they quite clearly fall outside of that plan. And it does not reflect what the prosecution on Tuesday described as the systematic features of a national network operation. Instead, according to P3, the motive was personal financial gain through the sale of bodies. And if P3's account is accepted, it reflects opportunistic actions for personal gain of the most macabre kind. As held in Al-Hassan, an opportunistic act committed for personal profit without more falls outside the common plan. Now, just to finish up quickly on the issue of identity, in Incident 43, even the alleged perpetrators are not identified. Without identification, the Chamber cannot assess their institutional affiliation, chain of command, or attempt to make any possible linkage to Mr. Duterte. One more thing, Your Honours. The prosecution focused for some time on Incident 23. I can mention his name, Mr. Benjamin Vizda. Mr. Jeremy displayed compelling footage of Mr. Vizda's arrest and then
check mo yung mga yan. Naku po, Diyos ko Lord, mga kabsat, mukhang nawawala na. Ay, Kaufman, anong ginawa mo? Bakit wala ka na naman? Ayun.
What happened when Mr. Vizda was taken away on the motorcycle?
Naku po.
The fact that
Basta
while
wala
handcuffed,
Kaufman.
he attempted to grab the gun of one of the policemen, leading to a struggle and prompting the motorbike to fall over and the policeman to shoot Mr. Vizda twice in self-defense. And that this PNP report appears to be corroborated by another prosecution witness, whose testimony fully aligns with the substance of the police document. Mr. Jeremy claimed that the PNP reports were false, relying solely on the allegation of one witness that the scene was staged. This witness claimed that the handcuffs were removed from the victim, that the body was loaded on the tricycle a few minutes after being shot and then brought to the hospital. However, his account is contradicted by the very picture the prosecution has shown you on Tuesday. Indeed, it appears that the prosecution is submitting documentary evidence which undermines its own witness's testimony. As you can see here, handcuffs are on. The body is on the ground rather than on a tricycle. Photojournalists are also present. This contradiction was even noted by the prosecution's investigators at the time of the interview and was put to the witness. And when confronted by the investigators, what did that witness say? I don't know if I can.
Wala na to mga kakabsat. Kung kailan pa ending na si Kwan, kung kailan pa ending na si Kaufman, pang ilang interruption na to? 3, 4? Nakatatlong interruption na. What tragis? Hindi na nadadala si Kaufman mga kakabsat. Kupo, may ano na naman kaya ang mga sinabi niya dyan? Diyos ko Lord, Sartoni, naspak man na, nakapaw. Let me get a punch. Diyos ko Lord.
30.
Naghang na. Ako po.
Or has
Wait lang.
reasons, and decisions were taken locally. All of this destroys the assertion that there was a mutually agreed common plan. I will elaborate. P1160 claims hierarchical transmission of policy within the police, while simultaneously acknowledging officers' autonomous killings for personal motives. Those propositions cannot comfortably coexist. P3 explains that certain officers acted outside any common plan and for opportunistic reasons. See Incident 38. In Incident 49, P1207 attributes instructions to local officers without evidence of communication or direction from higher authorities. And most significantly, P1207 P1207 states after a certain death, once again abiding by the redactions, Tokhang operations and killings ceased. This indicates, Madam President, Your Honours, that dependence on specific individuals, not an enduring organisational policy. A system-wide common plan cannot depend on the continued presence of a non-fungible local official. And with this, I conclude.
Yun. Conclude na. Tapos na.
Judge Motok, thank you very much, Mr. Kaufman. All the arguments on the merits have been heard. We will now break for 40 minutes.
Okay, 40 minutes
up
break.
to 10:30. And after we return, we will continue with the closing arguments or submissions, starting with the OTP. Thank you very much.
All right.
Court is suspended.
All right. Subtopic tayo, Mabsat. Okay. Ka-countdown ko lang to, Countdown ko lang. Subtopic tayo tapos break tayo, Mabsat. Isang topic lahat, isang topic. Tungkol kay Sarah to, tungkol kay Sarah. Okay, here we go. Countdown.